Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Let's start our video with a story about the terrible neighbors that our OP opposed. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Disrespectful, loud, and rude neighbors. An eye for an eye. My neighbors below me are horrible. They constantly slam the main door to the house. I live in a house broken up into 3 apartments. And when I say constantly, I mean they'll go in and out of the house and slam it anywhere from 5 to 30 times. Last time it happened, I counted 18 times. When I asked them nicely, during the day, to be a little more conscious about closing the door quietly, the lady went off on me, saying something along the lines of, "Don't run your lip if you ain't got a clip." Gun reference, I think? On top of that, every single night they come home between 10 and 12, slamming the door, and then their 2-year-old runs back and forth underneath our apartment like a little elephant. He normally doesn't quiet down until about 3 a.m. I understand that kids will be kids, but when I'm trying to study and my boyfriend's trying to sleep to get up for his 5 a.m. job, it gets a little out of control. I'm not going to even go into the fights and screaming matches they have with each other all day and night. I have no idea when these people sleep. On top of this, every time my neighbors slam the door and the kid starts his track practice, my dog gets upset and starts barking. We shush him every time he starts, but we know how the poor dog feels. It sucks. So last night, after being sleep-deprived for 3 days and finishing an important exam earlier that day, I stayed up till when my boyfriend left for work at 5 a.m. Then I started practicing what I call my step dance routine, stomping and clapping all over the apartment. Then I start running back and forth in the hallway that's directly over their bedroom. When they knock on the door to address it with my dog barking hysterically at the knocking, I don't shush my dog or answer them. I keep running and stomping. When they come back a second time, I yell through the door, "This is what it sounds like every time you slam the door shut and let your kid run around all night. Revenge!" And keep running and stomping. Yeah, it was stupid, extremely petty, but it felt so good. I made sure that I stopped long enough for them to settle back into their apartment and then started up again. Exactly what happens to us every night. I can't believe that I actually did that. So immature. But I don't care. We'll see what the future fallout is. But to me, in this case, petty revenge was great. Update. As of right now, I haven't heard a sound from them all night except for the door being quietly closed. I'm still walking on eggshells as I feel like it's too good to be true. They passed my SO on his way in, and they mentioned that I'm crazy and childish. That was the point, right? And he suggested we all sit down and talk about the living situation. He couldn't quite tell me their response. It was neither a yes or no. Plus, he was still exhausted from work and last night's shenanigans from the neighbors. I hope they think I'm crazier than I am, and I'm not to be messed around with. Maybe I am, and shouldn't be. Lesson learned. Don't come off as weak to your neighbors when they try to threaten you with an old adage about guns, and petty revenge is rewarding. I don't know how long this will last, but just one night to study for my next exam on Thursday's been so worthwhile. Also, my dog is snoring. Amazing. And our second story. What happens when engineering students are asked to truck-proof a mailbox? I just learned this story from my dad involving my Uncle Dale, family friend who passed away a few months ago, and figured you guys would get a kick out of it. Years back, when Uncle Dale and Dad were university students, their engineering professor came to their class with a problem that needed solving. His mailbox was getting broken by someone driving by every night. He and his wife had put up something like 4 or 5 mailboxes, and all 4 or 5 times the mailbox had been knocked over by somebody driving a red truck. This professor offered extra credit to any group of students who could come up with a truck-proof mailbox that not only fit with city regulations, but within a budget of $20, which back then was a good-sized chunk of change. Well, if anyone here knows anything about engineers, as Dad puts it, they love solving problems. And if it's engineering students, they'll make it an experience to remember. Dad and Uncle Dale got together and got to work. They found a steel bar that fit within the mailbox regulations. Posts have to be a specific height, width, and depth, and filled the inside with a mixture of concrete and steel rebar. Once the concrete had cured, they welded more rebar to the sides of the bar, bent them in half, and stuck it inside a bucket. To add extra weight, they filled the bucket with the heaviest rocks they could find. As a finishing touch, they painted it brown and black to look like wood and put the ugliest mailbox we could find on sale on top, welding it down for good measure. They brought this monstrosity into class, more dragged it in because it was so heavy, and told the professor to bury the bucket where the mailbox stood. Since they were the first to turn in their project, the professor agreed to give it a try. That night, the professor and his wife were awoken by a metallic bang, followed by a lot of cursing. They went outside, and wouldn't you know it, there was that red truck speeding away. The mailbox still standing. At the base was a broken wooden baseball bat. 2 days later, the professor gets a bill in the mail for a hospital visit. Turns out when the passenger hit the mailbox, he did some serious damage to his arm and shoulder. They were planning on suing the professor, but the professor hired a lawyer who basically told the plaintiffs, "You're just going to admit that you were vandalizing the mailbox multiple times?" That shut him up. To the best of my dad's knowledge, the mailbox is still standing. The other students who still brought in mailboxes had theirs gifted to different professors throughout town and are also still standing. Yeah, hitting an immovable object with a bat from inside a car will really mess up your arm. And our last story. No, bud, you don't hit the disabled. So, for some info. A little while ago, I couldn't use my left foot because I got in an accident while skiing. I was lucky because my grandma had an automatic car where you only need your right foot for gas and brake. I'll be calling myself Bad Parker BP, and the store Peel SE for store employees. Later, you'll know why. So I was going to do some shopping in the town that I live, not that big, and there are only 2 spots for disabled people, opposite of the small walkway in the middle. These parking spots have a sign, attached to 2 poles for whatever reason, on the walkway side. I see cars already parked in those spots, which pisses me off, but it happens. The bad side is that the closest parking spot's quite far, but I settle with it, so I park on the other side of the parking space. During my walk, as far as you can call it, with those humps on both sides, I look at the cars parked like I always do. It's fun to see the difference in taste for cars, and at the ones in the disabled spots. In my country, you need a special blue card under your front window to show you're disabled. If you don't have it and still park there, the ticket is expensive, and it pisses me off, but I can't do much because I couldn't really kick it, right? So I do my shopping and return to my car to see that both cars are still at the spot, but the car without the card has someone sitting in it, and just to be helpful, I walk up to his window, knock on it, and ask him not to park there at these kind of spots because he's making it really hard for people like me, or worse, to walk that far. I was just trying to be helpful, but the man responded with opening the door as hard as he could and hit my leg in the process, a smirk, and an annoying, "Sorry," only an entitled brat could say. I knock again and he gives me the middle finger, but drives away anyway. Skip 1 week and I drive up to the area again just to visit a friend who lives there. I see the same car standing in the spot. Thinking by myself what BP did to me, I wanted him to feel how annoying it was if someone parked somewhere you weren't supposed to. And as luck was on my side, there wasn't any parking space left, so I parked right behind BP's car with very little space. As I climb out of my car, BP comes up to me and starts demanding me to move my car because I was not supposed to park there, or else he'll call the police. As the a-hole that I am, I give him a smirk and a sorry that only an entitled brat could say, and walk off to my friend's home, leaving him swearing at me. The parking space is right in front of a store, and there's camera security over the whole area, with an additional camera pointed towards the entrance and the disabled parking spots. My friend opens the door, and we just hang out for a while, when suddenly we hear a loud bang outside. My friend looks out the window and asks me what my car looks like and where I parked it. I give him the description, and he follows up to tell me I should check on my car and see what's happened. We both walk out and see my car has a huge dent and a lot of scratches. Turned out BP just forced his way out, and the only possible way was through my car, as the poles with the sign is unbreakable. Apparently, this wasn't the first time this kind of stuff happened, and one of the SEs walked out and tells us everything was probably recorded, and we could easily sue BP for what he did. However, I was pissed and wanted him to have a chance to explain himself because it could have been something very urgent, and I didn't want to be that big of a douche. He turned out to be a regular customer of the store, and the SE were helpful with calling him. He was pissed. He said I had no right to park behind him, and if I didn't pay for the damage I did, apparently, he'd call the cops on me. After he was done ranting off, I asked him politely, as I could as I was pretty pissed myself, why he crashed through and if he could pay for the damages done to my vehicle. He snapped and swore at me through the phone, which was apparently being recorded by the SE, which I figured in court, but I cut him off and told him he could either pay or I'd sue him for not only parking wrong or damaging my car, but also for attacking me with his door. But he hung up on me. So I called the cops on him. Through SE, they got his phone number and license plate and told me to sue him, so I did. In court, it became clear that he had multiple tickets still open, which he didn't pay. He got a ticket for parking in a disabled spot. He asked to pay me for all the damage done and a fine for attacking a disabled person. I was thrilled and felt I'd done some justice. I hate people who live by the "it's only illegal if I get caught" mentality. Glad this weenie got what he deserved. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.